The psychology of people who cut everyone off. There is a specific kind of silence that only arrives after years of emotional noise. Not the silence of an empty room. The silence of a phone you stop checking. Of messages you no longer feel urgency to answer. Of names on your screen that used to trigger guilt, anxiety, obligation, even dread, and now trigger something else, relief. And that is the part almost nobody talks about. People assume that if someone cuts everyone off, something must be wrong with them. They must be bitter, cold, dramatic, broken, afraid of intimacy. But what if that is not the real story? What if some people do not walk away because they hate people, but because staying started to cost them too much? Because sometimes what looks like rejection from the outside feels like regulation on the inside. Sometimes distance is not cruelty. Sometimes it is the nervous system finally saying enough. And if that is you, I want to begin here. You are not automatically wrong for needing space. You are not automatically unhealthy because silence feels good. And you are not a monster for noticing that peace started to feel more nourishing than access. But to understand why some people cut everyone off, we have to go deeper than behavior. Because this usually does not begin in adulthood. It begins much earlier. For many people, the pattern starts in environments where connection did not feel safe. Maybe you grew up around emotional unpredictability. Maybe you had to read the room before you could relax in it. Maybe you learned very early that other people's moods mattered more than your needs. Maybe asking for comfort got you dismissal. Maybe expressing pain made you feel like a burden. The CDC notes that adverse childhood experiences can affect brain development and how the body responds to stress, and are linked to mental and physical health problems later in life. In other words, early instability does not just create memories. It can shape the entire stress response system a person brings into adulthood. So what happens? A child in that kind of environment adapts. They become observant, careful, useful, low maintenance. They learn how to sense tension quickly. They learn how to give before asking. They learn how to stay connected without taking up too much space. And later as adults, those same people often become the reliable ones, the one who listens, the one who shows up, the one who absorbs, the one everyone calls when things fall apart. But there is a hidden cost to that role. If you spend years becoming the emotional container for everyone else, eventually your own inner world starts to run on fumes. And this is where many people begin confusing compassion with depletion. There is a reason the phrase compassion fatigue exists. The APA describes it as a real risk for people who repeatedly carry other people's suffering. While the term is often used in professional caregiving settings, the pattern is deeply familiar in personal relationships too. Too much emotional output, not enough restoration, and a gradual erosion of inner energy. So no, you did not wake up one day and become cold. You woke up after years. Years of over-explaining. Years of being the one who understood. Years of being needed more than you were known. Years of watching people come close enough to take from you, but not close enough to truly hold you. That kind of pattern changes people. And not because they become less loving, because they become more tired. This is where the psychology becomes more precise. The human nervous system is always asking a very simple question. Am I safe here? Not just physically, relationally, emotionally, socially. And when a person has repeated experiences of disappointment, betrayal, emotional overload, or one-sided closeness, the body begins to learn something the mind may still be trying to deny. This connection drains me. Chronic stress affects brain systems involved in fear-learning memory and executive function. Research reviews have shown that these circuits are especially sensitive to prolonged stress exposure. That means if someone has lived for a long time in emotional overdrive, they may begin reacting not from irrationality, but from accumulated stress learning. That is why some people seem to suddenly withdraw. It is not sudden, it is cumulative. They do not leave in one dramatic moment. They leave in 1,000 small ones. The ignored message, the one-sided conversation, the friend who only reaches out when they need something, the family member who calls concern what actually feels like control, the relationship where you are loved most when you are quiet, useful, agreeable, and easy. Eventually, the body stops calling that closeness. It starts calling it danger. And this is why one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that all withdrawal is the same. It is not. There is unhealthy isolation, and there is protective distance. The CDC is clear that social isolation and loneliness are associated with serious health risks, including heart disease, stroke, depression, anxiety, dementia, and earlier death. But that same reality should not be simplified into more people is always better. The quality of connection matters. Social connection is not merely having people around you. It includes whether those relationships are supportive, wanted, and emotionally healthy. That distinction matters more than most people realize, because some people are not suffering from the absence of people. They are suffering from the presence of the wrong ones. And that is why solitude can feel peaceful, while certain relationships feel exhausting. Loneliness is painful disconnection you do not want. Solitude can be chosen quiet, that helps you come back to yourself. But here is where it gets more complicated, because even when distance protects you, it does not automatically heal you. This is the part many people do not want to hear. Cutting everyone off can be a survival response. But if it becomes your identity, it can quietly harden into avoidance. And those are not the same thing. Protection says I need less access, more safety, more truth. Avoidance says no one gets in again. Protection is selective. Avoidance is absolute. And if you have been hurt enough, absolute can feel tempting. It can feel strong. It can feel clean. But deep healing usually does not end in becoming someone who needs no one. It ends in becoming someone who knows the difference between safe connection and self-erasure. That is the real work. Not reopening every door, not trusting everyone again, not becoming endlessly available, but learning discernment, learning what healthy connection actually feels like, learning that real closeness does not require you to betray yourself. So how do you know whether your distance is helping you or trapping you? Ask yourself 3 questions. First, after I spend time with this person, do I feel more regulated or more drained? That question alone can change everything, because your body often tells the truth before your mind is ready to. Second, am I setting boundaries or am I disappearing? Boundaries sound like I can talk for 10 minutes. I'm not discussing that. I'm not available for last-minute emotional dumping. I need more reciprocity than this. Disappearing sounds like I can't say what I need, so I'll vanish instead. Sometimes vanishing is necessary for a season. But if it is your only strategy, it may be protecting you from pain, while also protecting you from repair. Third, do I miss people, or do I miss being understood? That question is deeper than it looks, because many people do not actually miss the relationship they left. They miss the relationship they hoped it could become, and grieving that difference matters. Now let me give you something practical. If you are someone who has started cutting people off, try this 3-step tool before deciding who still belongs in your life. The peace audit. For the next 7 days, write down the names of the people you interact with most. After each interaction, rate 3 things from 1 to 10. Energy. Do I feel fuller or emptier? Safety. Do I feel relaxed or guarded? Truth. Do I feel more like myself or less? At the end of the week, look at the pattern. Not the excuses, not the history, not the guilt, the pattern. Because one of the strongest signs of emotional maturity is this. You stop evaluating relationships only by loyalty and start evaluating them by reality. Then build what I call a boundary ladder. Do not jump straight to all or nothing if you do not need to. Try levels. Limit topics. Limit time. Limit access. Limit frequency. And only if every smaller boundary gets ignored, consider deeper distance. This matters because healthy boundaries are a form of self-care. A PA guidance emphasizes that stronger boundaries reduce energy depletion and help prevent burnout. And one more thing. If your withdrawal comes with nightmares, panic, severe, numbness, sleep, disruption, flashbacks, or symptoms that are interfering with daily life, do not romanticize it. Get help. Trauma responses can be deeper than preference. NIMH advises seeking support when reactions to trauma or prolonged stress persist or start disrupting work, relationships, or everyday functioning. Because sometimes the deepest truth is not I hate people. It is, I never learned how to be close to people without losing myself. And that is not a moral failure. That is a wound. But it is also a skill you can heal. And maybe that is the most important distinction of all. The goal is not to become someone who cuts everyone off forever. The goal is to stop cutting off yourself in order to keep everyone. The goal is not endless openness. It is wise selectivity. The goal is not isolation. It is peace with discernment. The goal is not to become hard. It is to become clear. And if you are older and noticing your circle getting smaller, that does not automatically mean something is wrong either. Research on socio-emotional selectivity theory shows that as people perceive time differently across adulthood, they often become more selective and place greater value on emotionally meaningful relationships over broad social expansion. So maybe you are not becoming antisocial. Maybe you are becoming honest. More honest about what drains you. More honest about what counts as love. More honest about how expensive one-sided relationships really are. And if that honesty has made your world quieter, smaller, calmer, that may not be the beginning of your emptiness. It may be the beginning of your return, not to loneliness, to yourself.